Who would have thought that we would have reached a presidential campaign stop in the home of Cheeseheads, Homebrew, and Green Bay Packers football? And the entire November nomination process could turn on its ear because of what happens tonight in Wisconsin. Ted Cruz is steaming mad that John Kasich refuses to pack up and go home, convinced if he fails to catch Donald Trump, it's all the Ohio governor's fault. As for the GOP's current POTUS leader, he's doing what he does best: change the subject. And at the end of the day, is there anyone seeking to become your president who could actually understand what it takes to keep America safe, which is a lot more than just pouring concrete at the border? We talked to former Homeland Security boss Tom Ridge. If your preference is screaming hosts, those who refuse to see both sides of a story, and issue-oriented con artists, you're in the wrong place. Come on, you're smarter than that, okay? I'm Ed Berliner. This is The Hardline for Tuesday, April 5th, 2016.
I think we're going to do really well. The people of Wisconsin are amazing. They want to see strong borders. They want their jobs to stay here. They don't want other countries taking all their jobs and manufacturing. And I think we're going to have a great evening. We'll see what happens.
If it were not for Donald Trump, Ted Cruz would likely be sailing his way to the Republican presidential nomination, or at least that's what he and his followers would have you believe, because the Texas senator is being dogged by Ohio Governor John Kasich, the man who simply will not go away no matter how loud Cruz and Trump are about his chances. It is that skirmish that has everyone talking as we head for the closing of Wisconsin polls tonight, along with Donald Trump promising a surprise, Bernie Sanders promising a rise from the ashes, and Hillary Clinton, who obviously could care less about Wisconsin because, hey, she's in New York. The Wisconsin storylines and the latest political cliffhanger begging for answers over the next few hours. Let's begin with the political activist, founder of the conservative social network Tea Party Nation, and unabashed supporter of the aforementioned Senator Cruz, Judson Phillips, joined by Buckley Fellow in Political Journalism at the National Review Institute, Ian Tuttle. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Let's get to work. You know I'm going to start with you on this one, Judson, because it's your guy, Ted Cruz, who is screaming mad that John Kasich needs to get out. I'm going to play devil's advocate. Wait a minute. He's still in there. People are still voting for him. And if Ted Cruz, you know this is what people are going to say, if he was a good enough candidate right now, he'd be leading and he wouldn't have to whine about John Kasich. Go for it.
Well, I don't think he's whining about John Kasich. Look, I understand his frustration with John Kasich. Holy cow, this guy needs to be in the Democrat primary, not the Republican primary, because he's a liberal Democrat. He's not a Republican. But, you know, he's causing more problems. But at the end of the day, it's not going to matter because there's this thing called Rule 40B in the rules of the Republican Party. And basically, unless you've won 8 states, have a majority in 8 states, you're not going to get your name in nomination.
But you know as well as I do, Judson, he's not counting on anything through Rule 40B. What he's counting on is to get to a contested convention, be the guy that everybody wants to go for because Donald Trump can't get enough votes, Ted Cruz can't get enough votes, so he's hoping to just pull in and be that what he claims to be the adult in the room. You know that's what he's doing.
Yeah, well, no, actually, I think his real play is to be vice president because he's hoping one of the two is going to get really, really close within 100 delegates or so. He's got 100, 150, maybe 200 if he's really, really lucky. And he walks into the guy and says, hey, congratulations, I'm your vice president. That's what he's really hoping is going to happen.
All right, let me go to Ian Tuttle right now and bring him in on this right now. Ian, that's an interesting idea because let's face it, when you get to the convention, all the bets are off at this point. We're still hearing Paul Ryan's name being bandied about, and he says, keep me out of this right now. Okay, look, from your perspective then and looking at politics, do you see that? Do you see John Kasich trying to be vice president? I think that's kind of a long shot.
Yeah, I've spoken to people in Ohio who know Governor Kasich well, and they think it's simply unfathomable that John Kasich will be running to be anyone's number 2. That said, Judson's theory has been bandied about. It's entirely plausible. But look, John Kasich is a governor of an important swing state. He's a man of a certain age with a certain political background. He thinks this is his moment. He's running to win. Now, I think that he's largely doing, this is my personal opinion, I think he's doing a disservice to the party generally, and that his dream, if it is of being president via a contested convention, is an absolute fantasy. I think that the delegates would be more likely to bring in someone who hasn't even been in the race so far before they would settle on John Kasich, but that's just my sense of how things might play out.
Ian, let me get to that where you talk about the fantasy here for a minute. Judson, I'm going to bring you in on this point as well. You read a lot of the different articles, the individuals, the experts, if you will. Henry Olson, a conservative analyst, quote, "This isn't anything but a historic election defeat just waiting to happen," speaking specifically about Donald Trump being the nominee. Among independents, 19% favorable for Trump, 57% unfavorable. That's Times CBS. White women, 23% view him favorably, 54% have an unfavorable opinion of Donald Trump. Ian, does it not, though, get to the Republicans right now that they gotta, if they really want to win this election, and if you believe the numbers, and remember, Trump followers don't believe these numbers whatsoever, and they say that a lot of this is simply just made up an establishment against him. But if you want to win this election, you gotta bite your tongue and you gotta go for Ted Cruz, or else you're gonna lose. Isn't that what a lot of people are thinking out loud?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think that the delegates are likely to be moving in that direction as well. You know, first of all, you see Cruz operating very strategically, very carefully, you know, state conventions and whatnot to make sure that it's his people in the room if we do get to multiple votes. But look, you know, Cruz at this point in the race sort of splits the difference between, you know, he's the candidate most likely to be the one that you know, so-called establishment Republicans would you know, embrace in a general election if they have no other option, and he's likelier than Kasich or some person brought in out of the blue, a Ryan or someone like that, to be able to keep some of the Trump fans in the fold. So, you know, if you're looking at it tactically, Ted Cruz might actually be looking better now than he ever has in this race prior to this moment for a general election.
All right, so Judson, I'm going to play the devil's advocate, same thing, and I'm going to bring this in with you right now because you know what's coming next. I can go ahead and I can spit these numbers out all night long. I can go ahead and show that they're real. I can go ahead and show that they're hardcore numbers, but the people who follow Donald Trump will look right at people like you, Judson, the followers of Ted Cruz. Hate to point, I'm sorry about that. That's very impolite. My granny would be very upset with me. And they will say, you guys, all you want to do is change the rules. Damn it. Donald Trump is the one that America wants right now. Your guy is the guy who's got a lot of dirt behind him. You're hiding it. And quite frankly, it's your fault if the Republicans lose. And you guys better own up to that right now and stop trying to hide.
Well, you know, I say the Donald Trump people live in a fact-free world. You know, Ted Cruz has done something pretty amazing. He is in the process of unifying the party. He's bringing the
Wait a minute. How can you unify the party, though, when most of the people that he works with, even in the Senate, won't even talk to the guy? He can't get anybody to back him.
You remember Lindsey Graham, who a few weeks ago said you could murder Ted Cruz on the floor of the United States Senate and the Senate wouldn't vote to convict? Well, Lindsey Graham's now throwing the guy a fundraiser and working for him. So he's able to reach out and get these people behind him. He's got Jeb Bush's people behind him. He's reaching out to a lot of people. But here's the cold hard truth. You brought it up just a second ago. Donald Trump loses. He loses to Hillary for prison, and he loses to Bolshevik Bernie. I mean, think about this. One of the latest polls that just came out has him losing to Bolshevik Bernie by 20 points. That's not just a loss. That's an epic disaster.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about Donald Trump here for a moment and the news that he made. Because let's face it, it's been a very difficult week for Donald Trump. He's had a lot of things that he actually has had to apologize for, which is something new for him. He claims that he has the way to go ahead and make Mexico pay for the wall. He's got this one hardcore. Press conference today regarding new Treasury actions. President Obama was questioned about this plan. It would curb money being sent to Mexico from nationalists living in the United States. Here's what the president said.
First of all, they're impractical. We just talked about the difficulties of trying to enforce huge outflows of capital. The notion that we're going to track every Western Union, bit of money that's being sent to Mexico, good luck with that. This is just one more example of something that is not thought through and is primarily put forward for political consumption.
All right, now, Ian, there's an outside chance that he could get something like this done. People came in, the experts said that they didn't say that it was an absolute no-go here. But here's the thing. Isn't this the brilliance, and people who don't like Donald Trump will chafe at that word, but the brilliance of Trump. He's had a lousy week. People are all over him. He takes his keys out of his pocket. He jingles them a little bit. He shows the shiny thing, and it's that wall and the immigration, and his people are right back behind him. He knows how to get his people back on track at a critical time. Yes?
Yeah, that's right. He retreats to one of his golden issues, which is this wall, which is, a spectacular promise, but, as a promise is somewhat impractical. But look, on the question two of impounding remittances, it's a very difficult thing to do. Pragmatically, if you were able to, actually monitor Western Union transfers the way that Donald Trump is talking about, you would likely create a vast black market that's even less trackable for law enforcement than currently exists. You just have vans going across carrying, $5,000, $10,000 from 8 people. So it's not clear that the tactic would actually work. Second, the way that Donald Trump has proposed actually stopping the remittances is by unilaterally creating a regulation through the Patriot Act. So,
which technically you can't do because the Patriot Act was not created for that purpose.
Exactly. For small government conservatives, what he's proposing is a dramatic increase in executive power. So, if we want to put in an executive who's promising to limit the reach of the executive, restore some of the balance in the federal system, Donald Trump's just come out with a proposal that would do the exact opposite.
But let's look at it this way. People are going to say that you have to do something. That's going to be the bottom line. 10 seconds, Ian. What do you think is going to happen tonight?
I think Ted Cruz is going to win, and he's going to win pretty significantly.
How about Bernie Sanders, big or small?
I can't say on that one. If he wins, it's going to be probably small.
Judson, 10 seconds to you. Go.
I think Ted Cruz is going to have a great night tonight. Or to quote somebody else, it'll be huge. And Bolshevik Bernie, I think, has a pretty decent night, too.
We are not putting Bolshevik Bernie on a T-shirt no matter what you ask us to do. That's not going to happen yet. Judson Phillips, Ian Tuttle, thanks so much for joining us, gentlemen. We appreciate your time. Don't forget, things are happening in Wisconsin right now as we speak. Make sure you join us beginning at 8 o'clock Eastern time tonight as we look at the polls as they close. Yours truly and the entire Hardline team will join you at 10 o'clock Eastern time for a complete wrap-up tonight. It's coming up right here, and the Hardline continues.